Shalom. So today we're going to continue with signs of opposition in male-female relationships. All right. So today we're going to look at things from the standpoint of the male and from the standpoint of the female and also from the standpoint of the opposite. So one thing can look this way over here, but it's interpreted differently. And because of that, it creates conflicts in relationships sometimes. So first we're going to look at consistency, right? So you have consistency, how it can look like from the standpoint of the male and how it looks sometimes from the standpoint of the female. Now, with this consistency, it creates a balance, and this balance is called the attention. Because, in relationships, we need to give attention to each other. It's very important. What does this consistency look like from the standpoint of a female? Now, for the female, consistency can be like this, like clockwork, events taking place right behind each other, and this is considered as consistent. Now, you can understand that from the standpoint of the female. Now, from the standpoint of the male, sometimes consistency might look like once in a while, probably every 3 months. And I'm just going to use my personal experience, right? So, I'm into agriculture. My wife is in the corporate world, right? Now, our jobs are two different kind. Now she's off on weekends. She can go out every weekend. Not saying she's going to, but or she wants to, but she can go out every weekend. Now with my job, it's not the same. Everything about what I do is physical, dealing with goats, cows, back and forth in the rain, the river. So consistency for me maybe every 3 to 4 months before I can think about going out, right? A person who works in the corporate world, probably unwinding for them means, okay, this Saturday I'm going to go to the club. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to unwind. From my standpoint, after a hard day dealing with animals, dealing with the weather, right? Unwinding for me means I want to come home and sit and relax and talk. Probably have a beer with you at home, not having to go out there. So consistency is going to look different based on the situation of the people involved, right? So it's the same if, for example, you have a wife that works in insurance and she has to drive around to deal with different clients. Her consistency is going to be different. Wherein if it's just a man who works in an office and get home at a certain time that's fixated, it's not going to be the same. So her consistency is going to be inconsistent, and his consistency is going to be consistent. But guess what? The little time that you can set aside to create that, to make time for each other, the little time you set aside to make time for each other, that is how it's going to be. You have to accept the reality of the other person, that's how hers or his reality is. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the masculine and the feminine, right? And this creates what? Attraction. A lot of us sometimes don't understand how important the masculine and the feminine energy is and how it works. This is why sometimes a woman can be really in love with her man, but because this is missing, it's like she feels as if it's not going to work. She, she's not the fault. I mean, he's not the fault, but she knows that it's just not going to work because with this missing, certain levels of attraction is just not going to be there, and there's nothing wrong with the guy. And it's the same, for example, sometimes if you're a man in the house and you cannot do basic things like if the pipe broke and you don't know how to fix it. Not saying you need to know how to run an entire irrigation system for complex, but if the pipe broke inside the house, these are basic things that as a man you're supposed to be able to do, right? You don't have to call a maintenance guy to fix these simple things. Now, what happens when she sees these men coming to the house and how they're operating with the tools? And there's a natural attraction. Doesn't mean that she's gonna act upon it, but there's a natural attraction, not with her and the man, but the feminine energy in her can relate to that masculine energy because feminine women are naturally attracted to the masculinity in a man. Now, I talk about this movie a lot of times, Legend of the Fall with Brad Pitt. The woman was with one of the brothers, but there's another brother. His brother was also in the home, but he was masculine. Brad Pitt was, he know how to mount the horse, he know how to, do all these things. So the woman was secretly standing back and watching him. It doesn't mean that she physically wants to be in something with him. Yes, the movie ended there that way, but I'm saying it's a natural thing with the masculine and feminine energy. So it's gonna be the same where your woman comes around your friends. There's a lot of masculine, feminine energy there being intertwined. So she might start to like their jokes. She might start to like the way they do things and so forth. So these things are natural, and this is why you have to keep a certain line, a threshold. A threshold has to be there with how your woman is exposed naturally out there. So yes, if that masculine energy is there with you, the way you do things, the way you take care of things, because if you're not that, it's gonna be hard for her to have that attraction to you. Likewise, if she's not feminine, if she's as masculine as you are, more masculine than you, it's gonna be hard for you. It's gonna be hard for you to be attracted to that energy, even if you really like her. There's gonna be a barrier between your energy and her energy. So we have to understand the signs of opposition with masculine feminine energy. A woman wants a man to take charge, whether she says so or not. She wants to be handled. She wants to hear your input and certain opinions and certain decision. She wants you to be involved. She wants to be able to trust your decisions, your problem solving skills, how you do things, how you maneuver, how you find your way out of situations. She wants to trust that. She's going to be attracted to those things in you, those qualities. So it creates a balance between how the energy looks from one standpoint as opposed to the other, which ties into the respect and the love. Because if a woman is masculine to that extent, it's going to be hard for her to have the respect she needs to have for the man. And it's the same. If the man is not in tune with that masculine energy in himself, it's going to be hard for him to love the woman the way he's supposed to love the woman. It's going to be hard for both of them to be submissive to their own nature because it's within your nature, it's within the nature of a man to love the woman, and it's within the nature of the woman to respect the man. And they both need to be submissive to one another. They need to submit themselves. But if you're outside of your nature or your element, it's going to almost be impossible. So now we can talk more about respect and love. Now, what does this look like? How love is expressed from the standpoint of the man is not the way it's interpreted from the standpoint of the woman. Love is interpreted through the feeling nature of the woman. Love is expressed through the doing, the action of the man. So naturally, a man needs to be active in a woman's life. And once he's been active, then naturally it's going to help her to do what? Remain in her passive energy. It creates a balance, active and passive, masculine and feminine. So the man is going to want to do things, and that's how he cares for the woman. The love is the care, and the care is the love. For example, I'm not into cars. My wife drives, right? No, if something goes wrong with the car, guess what? I have to figure things out, or I have to go to wherever I need to go to get things up and running. So that's becoming what? That's being active in her life. So you don't want her to have certain problem, then come home and have to deal with it, or have to find solution, or be all over the place trying to get things. No. That's your duty, and that's part of your love, and that she needs to have that understanding also, that doing these things is part of the expression of your love. It's not always going to be about affection for you, because it doesn't always appear the same way. Like we mentioned up here about consistency. So the affection might come off in different ways. You might always want to be touched. You might always want these type of little cuddles and so forth, right? But if that's your way, then you have to be consistent with your way. But if your consistency should not be dependent on what the man does. For example, a man is not always going to say, "Hey, come and lay on my chest." But you have to know that, okay, this is what you like. So guess what? You're going to go lay on his chest. He's not always going to be rubbing down, and not everyone is like that. But some man of man, some the ways of some men is to do what? Smack on the booty. You might think that's the it's too no, that's his way of showing affection. So you need not to interpret differently from what it means to him. So we have to respect the fact that some things are going to be the same, but it's going to look different from the opposite side. So the man doing all these things he's doing to create something functional or to make something functional, that is an expression of his love. And the woman, with that, the woman is naturally going to respect the man. But respect requires something more. Because a lot of times we say the word respect, but what we don't understand is, in order for you to respect something, there has to be something to be respected. And this comes back to what? Values. What are your core values in the relationship? Do both of you share the same values? Because what if this is one of your core values, but the other person does not value it? How is the respect going to work? For example, what if I don't like, what if I don't involve my mother into my relationship? Whatever goes on inside, she does not know. You, on the other hand, don't see it as anything. So when some little arguments come up or whatever, or disagreements, you go to my mother. Where is the respect? We don't share the same values. You see that as nothing. That might be normal for you because in your years of relationship, you discuss problems with the person's mother. I value certain things, so you'd have to respect that value, even if you're not in agreement with it. That is what respect is about. So, do you share the same values in the relationship? How do you talk about this person in his absence? What kind of image do you depict of this person in his absence? That reflects the respect you have for him. Do you make comparisons with him and other men? Do you talk to other men about him or things that he does? Or whether he falls short on something? Do you talk to other men? How much of a priority is he in your life? All of those are different forms of showing respect. And when you're not in this confinement, when you're not in tune with that feminine energy or your feminine nature, it's hard for you to manifest that respect. So, yes, husbands, love your wives, wives, respect your husband, and this is called submit yourselves one to another. The next thing we're going to look at is providing from the standpoint of the man and being provided for from the standpoint of the woman. And one word you can use to put these two things together is sharing. So when you think of providing, right, it is within the nature of the man. And we're coming from an ancient civilization where it was patriarchal, right? So it's natural that the men would be providers. So whether you're living under your father's roof, you would be provided for in all aspects, right? No, think about it. Why would you be leaving a home where you're being provided for, being protected, being cared for, being loved, and all of these things to go to a home where, to go to a man where it's just a good feeling that's there? You're going to get a lot of attention. You have to think about what you're moving away from and what you're going to. And this is why we live in a society where it's so easy for men to walk away from homes. Because guess what? What is that substantial thing that you're giving towards this relationship? At the end of the day, what do you have to lose? If you lose this relationship, what do you really have to lose? Now think about it. If if a man take on to a wife, right, and he administers this woman unto this parcel of land, right? So that means when she gives him an heir, the son already has that thing for him already. He already has a land. He probably already has a house built on the land. He probably has his cattle or whatever the business might be, right? So that man has all of that to lose. Now think about it. How they can jump from relationships to relationships. Guess what? If every relationship you'll be losing all of this value here, this asset, guess what? Men would be more careful about how they go about things. That would put us into a position of accountability or responsibility, because you wouldn't want to go on to 10 different wives, 10 different children, and then 10 parcels of land go out like that. But you see, this is also a form of security for the woman, because now she has that, and from that, she knows how to multiply that land and bring 7 times 7 income. Now, how is this? Now, this can look very different from the standpoint of the woman, because a woman, it's in her nature to be provided for. Now, we live in a society where if a woman asks for certain things upfront, it's like she's a gold digger or a whore, or so a woman is being demonized for something that is within her rights. It is within her rights to secure these things. So in order for you to give yourself to this man, guess what? You are sure that okay, you're gonna be administered on this thing, you're gonna be administered here, you're gonna be added to this bank account here, your this vehicle is here, this all of these things, the life insurance, the health insurance, medical things, everything is secured. So in the event where something happens to this man, guess what? You don't live the rest of your life in a stressful state doing 2 3 jobs just to take care of the child. You can even be a stay-at-home mom even though there's not the husband there or a father there for the child. So these would be considered as the duties of the marriage, the principles of the marriage. And even if something goes wrong between the two, guess what? They should not be diminished. Because you know what? That's also going to affect the child. So if what you're doing here is just because the woman is still of service to you, and now she's no longer of service to you, then you're gonna withdraw all of that. How is it affecting your child? The child is gonna suffer just as much as the mother, or maybe more, because at least the mother has understanding and be able to process it to some extent. That young child is gonna grow up suffering, doesn't know how to process the breakup, doesn't know how to deal with the struggles, doesn't know how to deal with what he sees his mother going through to put bread on the table, to take care of the bills. She might be seeing different men coming in and out, and he's going to understand at some point. What kind of son do you think that would be creating? So, being provided for is within a woman's right to secure that upfront. Okay, you're giving up all of this. What is it that you're going to be getting in return? What is that price that you're asking for? That if the man should lose his mind and want to send you back home, you don't want to end up like that woman in Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right? You're 18 years, you go to this husband and you help support him throughout his career till he reaches the peak, or right? He reaches the peak of his career. And now, when you're 40, he wants to send you back home to your parents. A wedding ring is not enough to restore unto you everything that was lost over the 20 years. So you have to have something substantial. So, yes, it's within your rights as a woman to be provided for. And we know different men are in different positions today, but you will have to know where you guys can meet each other. Now, we know we're living in a matriarchal society where everything has been flipped in the reverse, where being provided for is interpreted different in the cases of some women, right? And this is why we have so much devastating things in black relationships. For example, the Most High said, it is not good for a man to be alone, right? Now, we interpret this good as sometimes maybe feel good, looks good, or whatever the case may be. But when you're dealing with good, you're dealing with something that's functional, right? So a woman that's, you'd say, independent, take care of all these things, what happens is that she'll find herself in a situation where she doesn't really need a man in her life like that. She just wants to know that somebody is there, but she doesn't really need that. This is a recipe for disaster. How? She will be doing all these things for this man, spending money on him, taking care of certain needs or wants or whatever the case is, and give him everything. Literally took him from nothing, take care of him, and guess what? He ends up betraying this woman. And when you look at who you are being betrayed for, that makes it even 10 times worse. Because with you being out of line with your feminine nature, guess what? It's going to be so difficult for you to respect him that you're even disrespecting him in simple ways that you don't even realize, right? Because you know that you're doing all these things for him, but how is he really feeling being on the receiving end? How is it affecting him? You might buy a car, you might give him access to the house, you might give him money to take care of things, you might buy him clothes, but how is he really feeling if that respect is not there? Now then you find out, only to find out that the woman that he's with, guess what? That woman is nothing compared to you. And everything that you're doing for him, he's using it to do for this person. But guess what? He feels more respected here. With his ability to provide for this woman, she shows more respect for this man. With you, it's more difficult because you're thinking that just because you're giving him all these things, then he should be loyal to you. And that's problematic. You didn't want him close. You didn't want to, okay, say, what is his goals? What would he like to do? You put him in that position where now he's able to provide for you in all different ways. You kept him at bay. You just want to keep giving him things when you want to give him, but you would never put him to stand on his own. he will not feel respected. This is why you see in a lot of the jobs in the work environment, instead of, you'll have a lot of women on the board of directors who will probably be single, unmarried, right? But the male employees, guess what? They're not even looking in that direction. But this new girl come on the job, trainee, not even there for 3 months good. Guess what? They're they're more going after these women. We as men want that respect. It doesn't matter how we verbalize it or act like we don't care. We do. It's in our nature to want that. This is why a lot of times women who are more in an independent state or position of power, they get more overlooked because they just want somebody to be there. They don't really want somebody to be there. They want somebody to be there. And it's hard for them to give that respect. So the man is going to go where he's respected. And after a while, this situation can get to him because he's gonna be losing interest after a while. And now you feel even more stupid to know that he was using your car to do things for this woman. He was using your money to do things for this woman. She's gonna appreciate him. The thing that you never did that. You didn't really appreciate him because you didn't see where he added value to your life. But this woman, he sees all of that. But your interpretation might be saying that men don't want good women. You do all these things for them. No, that's still dysfunctional. This is why he said it's not good for man to be alone. You want to be here, he's over there, arms length apart, and you think that's going to be functional. What this society provides for you is not the same as when your partner provides for you. So how much do you respect the little that this man is doing for you? The corporate world gives you a paycheck of 5,000. This man only can give you 1,000. How much do you appreciate it? You don't really value it. Now, what do you think when this man gives that woman or use that $1,000 to cover this woman's bills and so forth and things for her child or whatever it is in the home? He's gonna feel appreciated. He's gonna feel like a provider, even if it's at your own expense. Now, protecting from the standpoint of the man and being protected from the standpoint of the woman creates a balance, and this balance is called covering. This is why you hear people say, oh, do you have a cover? Do you have a head? Do you have a protection? Hedge of protection? This is what it's talking about. Now, being protected comes in many different forms, and to deal with the physical aspect is very important. Like we saw this played out with Dinah when the Canaanites laid with her and they wanted to continue the duties of marriage, right? So the brothers were there to protect her physically. And we know what they did to those people, right? Out of deceit by getting them to come to an agreement. Now, we live in a time where we can say, like the judges, where the judges rule, where every man did according to their what's right in their own eyes. So, because we have the 119 or the 911 emergency, we kind of remove this concept of protection from us. So when scripture says the man is ahead of the woman, guess what? Yes, the husband is ahead of the wife, but on a general scale, on a wider scale, the man is the head of the woman. So if you're unmarried, guess what? The law still applies to you. The man is still the head. So you have your father, your uncles, your brothers. Those are your line of protectors when you're in your father's house. So if you're going about dating, guess what? They need to be there. And if you don't have a family anymore close like that, guess what? Your congregation, you take some males from your congregation. So when the man show up at lunch and before he takes a seat, guess what? You're going to introduce him to your protectors, to your supporters. So he's going to meet these brothers in the from your congregation because they are your protectors. You are in their hands. So he understands that, okay, this is not just a simple woman that he can run around with. It's either he's in or he's out. And you say, okay, lunch is going to be last lunch is gonna last such and such hours, so she should be back home by this time, and you're gonna call to check in that, okay, you should be heading home now. Are you okay? Are you on your way home? Right? So there's that agreement, so he knows what he's dealing with. But when a man sees that you're unprotected, you don't know what that is doing. So yes, it's important to be protected physically, whether you're it's going to be your husband, whether it's going to be your father, your uncles, your brothers, the men of your congregation. You need a protector. It doesn't have to be sexual. You can have a protector, a non-sexual protector, right? No, financially, you don't want to be in a situation where a man is drowning in debt. Emotionally protected. This is this is where you protect a woman's feelings. And to protect the feelings is be mindful of what you expose her to. Because sometimes some little things can come up, and then because of how you dealt with it, it escalates and it affects her feelings, right? So you want to protect her feelings, and spiritually, that's the protection that these women need. They need a spiritual covering. So as the husband, you have to be that spiritual covering. And if you don't have a husband, then you need somebody of the congregation, a group of elders from the congregation, people who you are less likely to be attracted to. Even if you're attracted to the wisdom, because the age difference is gonna be harder to cross that line. So you're still keeping yourself intact as a woman, right? So you want to be spiritually protected, meaning that you want somebody to cover you in the scriptures. You want somebody to cover you in the line of consciousness or awareness, someone that can feed into your spirit, someone that can strengthen your discernment. Because most of the times, women go by their feeling. The feeling needs logic to be balanced. And this is where the man comes in. Bring logics to the equation. Because a lot of times we are betrayed by our own feelings. Oh, you might have a strong feeling for this man, but is it functional? You might be coming out of a relationship, but the feeling is so strong, but it still ends. The relationship still ends. So feelings still need to be supplemented by something more. So you need that logic, you need that discernment. So these are just few examples of how things work on the opposite sides when it comes down to the male female. Shalom.